My name is Gabe Zinzer, and today I'm interviewing Rosalie Gordon.
My name is Nathan McLean, and I'm going to be behind the camera.
Where did you come from?
I'm from Jamaica, in the parish of St. Catherine, Spanish Town. And coming from Jamaica, from one island to the next, it was like, it's nothing in common. And coming here when I was 26, I shouldn't tell you this, but when coming here when I was 26, I would love to go partying. And when I was done working, I remember I was working at Honors and it was 11:30. When we closed up, it was 11:30, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go take a nap and then go to party. And there goes, no, the club closes at 1. And I'm like, the club closes at 1? I'm like, that's crazy, because 1 o'clock is when you go partying in Jamaica, and you don't get home until like 4:30, 5 o'clock. So that was my biggest adjustment.
What brought you to Nantucket?
I came to Nantucket on work purposes. There was a work program, and I was a teacher back home, but I decided to spread my wings a little bit. My brother came here, and if anything went wrong, I would have somebody to rely on, and he was the one that brought me here. So I had like a backbone then, just in case.
So what kind of jobs did you do when you first came?
First, I came as a housekeeper. It was interstate, now previously known as NIR, the Opera House.
So you've worked at Downy Flake, right? So how was the process there?
I work at Downy Flake, but being here since 96, I've worked at Downy Flake, I've worked at AK Diamonds, I've worked at Arno's, I've worked at the White Elephant, I've worked at the Brand Point Grill, I've worked at the Cumberland Farms, I've worked at Stop and Shop. There's a lot of places that I've worked. But being at the Downy Flake, at the presence, it's like family, because it's such a small group of people that comes inside there every day. You see somebody walked in, you put their cup of tea down, their lemon, their thing, and you go to the computer and you put their breakfast in. You might not know their name, but you know exactly what they want for breakfast. And that's good. So, and after I'm done at the Downy Flake, I usually take a break, and then I go to Lola Burger. And after Lola Burger, I go home like 10:30, wind down, might get into bed around 1 o'clock, get up again, be at the Downy Flake at 5 a.m. in the morning. So the summertime, it's really hard. But on Tuesdays, it's my hardest, because I go to work at 5, finish at the Downy Flake, where I volunteer at the food pantry. And after I finish volunteer at the food pantry, I would go back to Lola Burger and then finish my day there at around 11. So it's from 5 until like 11:30, knowing that you have to get up Wednesday morning to reach work at 5 o'clock again. So this is my wind down time. I like the winter time, because the summertime you get like 4-5 hours of sleep, and that's pretty much it. And I could say that for the average Nantucket person too.
Do you consider Downy Flake like your main job?
Yes. It's my main job, and it's where I feel at home, because we have like 7 staff, so we're like family. We don't get a break, or we like cover for each other. It's not like you have like 30 people you have to be dealing with 30 different attitude or different personality. You just have 7 people. So that's 7 person that you come to know, and you come to know their likes and their dislikes. So it's easy to work in a smaller environment with people.
Oh, what was it like raising kids?
Raising kids In America, it's different from how I was raised as a kid, because there are a lot of do's and don'ts in America. Growing up as a kid, I remember walking to school 3.5 miles and walking back. So that was a 7 mile a day. And you have to behave proper, because if you did something on the street and any adult sees you, you get a whipping, and make sure they forget to tell your parents, because if they remember, then you'll get a second one. But being in Nantucket and raising kids today, it's very challenging, because you don't get a say in it. And when they don't turn out the way you want them, then society blames you.
What was the scariest moment of your life?
Scariest moment of my life was when my 9-month-old was admitted to hospital for major surgery, and not being there either.
What do you feel like was the most important part of your life?
The most important part of my life is being a mom. And sometimes, as all mom would say, I always tell my kids, you're more trouble than you're worth. And especially when you have a boy, because boys tend to mature way later than girls. And especially when taking away the toys and the games and the Nintendo and Xbox doesn't work. When you take away those stuff that you know would change someone and it doesn't, then you run out of option. And that's where the real challenge comes in. Because when you have a kid that adapt to any situation you put them in, then that's a real challenge as a parent. But I would exchange it for the world, because my kids are the most important thing in my life.
I hear you've gone to the Citizens Police Academy. Can you tell me about that?
Like I said, that was fun, and I like to know more about stuff. And the police academy was a way to find out exactly what the police do in Nantucket, because there's not much crime. And I was wondering, how could they be of value to the Nantucket community? But going there and knowing all the things and get to know all the things they do, it's a very hard work, because my biggest thing was going on the ride along, and I never closed my door. And going on the ride along and seeing them at like 3 a.m. in the morning, riding around the communities, make sure that everything is in order. And those are the reasons why I feel confident not to close my door, because I feel secure that they are out there doing what they're supposed to do to keep me safe. And that's a big thing. And that shows give me a lot of insight of what is not just seeing them standing on the street or driving around or giving tickets. It's much more than that, because there was a guy laying on the street right on his doorstep but didn't know. There was another guy, I'm not supposed to say where, but chasing, so wanted just a little cocaine, because he was so, like, just to get that dose, just to get that cocaine to just cool his system. And sometimes I wonder, how do you get from this stage to that? Because, like I said, I wasn't angry with him, or even though he was a threat to us, but he needed help, and he needed serial help. And that's when you have not pity, but real concern and sympathy for somebody like that in that stage. And that's where the police come in. And he was calm with him. He was okay. But he was a threat to both of us because his mind space was not anywhere normal. And that's sad. So that's was my biggest highlight in the police academy. And when they put the handcuff on my hand and locked me in the cell for like 2 minutes. That was fun too.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. And I hope you've learned something. Okay, and so were you born here?
Yes, I was.
Yes, and you like it on Nantucket?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's nice. All the best, and thanks. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Hi, my name is Steve Romero. I will be interviewing Rob Benchley.
My name is JT Levesque, and I will be working behind the camera.
Rob, where were you born? Were you born here?
I wasn't born here. I was born in New York City, oddly enough, during a hurricane in 1950, and I came here with my parents and my grandparents in the summertime, and then eventually moved here. Well, I moved here in 1982. I had been working in Boston in the theater there, and I got my position vanished, so I came to Nantucket for 1 year to take photographs for the Enquirer and Mirror. And that was 1983 when I got that job, and I still seem to be here. I couldn't think of a better combination of the skills I had learned and then was learning, and to come back to Nantucket to develop them even more and maybe share them and, be a real part of a community.
As a child, where did you go to school?
I went to public high school in Connecticut, and then I went to a private boarding school for poor readers, and I did pretty well. And then I went to college out in Michigan, where I majored in theater. And interestingly enough, the college I went to, I never went to visit it before I went. I got interviewed, certainly, but it was right on Lake Michigan, and it was so very, very much like the beach at Nantucket. I just couldn't believe how lucky I was.
When did you start photograph?
I got interested in photography mostly through my father. He was a pretty good photographer. He would have called himself an amateur. Excuse me. But he had a really good eye, and I started getting really interested, I think, in high school. And then I worked for my college newspaper. That was about the time my photography was starting to develop, and did a lot of darkroom work and a lot of newspaper work there. But I would say late high school and early college, and it's stuck with me since.
You've done some books, and you haven't done books, but you worked with people, and you've taken photographs for the book, right?
Yes, actually, a number of them, all with Nantucket themes. One of them was Mrs. Newhouse's book called The Voices of the Village, about some of the residents in Sankaty, and she did interviews much like you and your class are doing, and I took the photographs of the people during that whole process. And so her words and their words and my photographs are in that book, and it was a lot of fun. You get to know a lot of people, and you may have seen it. My co-author Jim Patrick and I, we wrote and photographed Scallop Season, a Nantucket Chronicle, which it's been 15 or 16 years already, and I just got a couple of checks from the Nantucket Looms. They're still selling them. And we spent a couple of seasons following the Nantucket commercial scalloping fleet. And it was, we thought we were going to get it done in a year, and it turned out that we realized that that little bay scallop is so keenly involved all throughout the whole island culture. And we couldn't possibly do it in one season. So we did another season and photographed the fishermen and the biologists and the selectmen, and we did town meeting things, and it just became this real look at Nantucket life.
In the house you live right now,
Uh-huh.
You built it, right?
Oh, yes. After I finished working at the Enquirer and Mirror, and I think that was maybe in 1985, I got this notion that I wanted to build myself a house. You know, I'd been working in the theater, so I knew how to use tools. At the time, everything I was building was real on one side and fake on the back, so the challenge was to make it real. So it took me about 4 years, 3.5 years to actually move in. I pretty much built it by myself, and it was a pretty huge learning curve. I didn't build my own foundation. I hired a friend of mine to do it who was a mason, but I was smart enough to get paid to be his mason's tender, so saved some money there and got in good shape. But yeah, it was a challenge, and it was. I don't know if I could ever do that again. I must have been nuts.
You worked for the newspaper here in Nantucket, right?
Yes, I did work for the newspaper. I started working with the Enquirer and Mirror, and then after I built my house, I worked with a startup newspaper called the Nantucket Beacon, and then I worked for another startup called the Nantucket Independent, and basically photographer for those papers. And I did some writing. Those papers has since gone out of business, the market being what it is, but it was an awful lot of fun. And met a lot of great people, and it changed my photography because when I first started taking photographs, I sort of did it for myself because I thought it was a way to sort of control my environment. You know, I could look through the viewfinder, and if I didn't like something in there, I could change it, and it wouldn't have to bother me. And then I had to realize that there are people in the world too, and the newspaper business is about people. So it forced me to sort of come out of my hiding. And so it's very good for me. And I also one of the things about photography is that not only is it great for shooting people, and but it has obviously an awful lot to do with history. And one of the projects I worked on was when the Sconset Trust did some major fundraising, and they were able to get Sankaty Lighthouse moved away from the eroding bluff. And so they asked me to do the photography for that. And we ended up doing a book about it, but the book involved not just the move, it involved the people who did the move, the people who volunteered, the intense history of the lighthouse itself and construction, and just everything that goes on here on Nantucket was just sort of compressed into that one little move that only took about 11 days. And so the photographs, the company that was moving the lighthouse gave me full access to the site when they were doing it, and the superintendents asked me to stay out of the way and don't get in their way, and always wear your hard hat. Well, in addition to building my house, after one of the Nantucket Beacon folded and I needed to do work, I had some light carpentry skills. So I seemed to be sort of in charge of fixing other people's rot in their houses on a small scale, you know, windowsills and storm doors and things. And I'm very busy. There's a lot of rot on Nantucket.
Did you have any more jobs besides photography?
And a big part of being a part of the community, of course, is volunteering. And there's such a wide variety of things you can do here to volunteer. For instance, not long after I moved into my house, I joined the Sconset Fire Department as a volunteer. And that was really rewarding. You know, the fire drills, learning about firefighting. I never really put out a fire, but I could drive the truck to a fire and I could get things hooked up to the hydrant. And there were 5 or 6 of us there all the time, and it was a real community inside of a community. And then, but the nice thing about that was that although it was kind of annoying sometimes at 3 in the morning when the fire alarm goes off, you know, you go to a place that usually could be just a false alarm, but you're helping out your neighbors, and that's really important. Yeah, actually, I joined the Syosconset Water Department, and that was about, I guess that's been close to 15 years now. And that in itself, and it's a volunteer thing once again, but we've got about 800 water customers out there, and I had no idea when I signed up that it would involve so much. And it's just water. It's physics and it's science. It's customer relations. It's a lot of dealing with the state of Massachusetts because water is highly regulated, as it should be. And turned out to be one of the more rewarding things I've done in my life. And I'm still doing it, and hopefully they'll have me for the rest of my days.
Thank you, Rob.
Steve, thank you very much. This is a great project you folks are doing.
My name is Tyler Gibson, and I will be interviewing Nick Duarte.
My name is Milo Cardell, and I will be working behind the camera.
What brought you or your family to Nantucket?
I don't know exactly how it all started, but my grandparents came over, like, to make a better life for themselves, I guess, from Cape Verdean Islands. So we ended up on Nantucket, fishing, working, doing what we have to do to survive, you know.
What part of the island were you from, and what does it mean to you?
I originally grew up in the Five Corners, West York Lane area. And then we moved out to Surfside area, Surfside Drive, actually. And I thought as a kid, like 9, 10 years old, that we made it out of the hood and moved out to the country. Because it was all country back then. There was no dirt road ended. Surfside Road was half dirt, half tar, and plenty of woods and stuff to play around in. Loved it out there. The summer was a blast. I could go fishing and surfing and, you know, ride our bikes all over the island and never see a car. When I was on Poplar's Road or Surfside Road, 4 or 5 cars would pass you and be begging for a ride when you got a flat tire.
How do you feel about the island changing?
Good. A lot of change as far as people and the tourists that used to leave at September, but now they stay, which is good. I do like the summers. The change for the better, I think. You know, we got, you know, more hustle and bustle, more things to do. And as a kid, I was like, you know, trying to stay out of trouble by, you know, doing my other activities, fishing and hunting and, you know, hanging around, not trying to get too much trouble downtown.
What was your favorite part about school when you were growing up?
School? I say just being around everybody, all your friends, and hanging out, playing around. That was a good time in school. I loved history, so that was my favorite subject. But yeah, hanging out, I miss that time, you know, with the kids. You'll see when you get older, you'll miss that too.
What kind of kids did you hang out with in school?
I hung out with a bunch of, I'd say the cool kids, I guess. I don't know what they call them. We were all different. I had, you know, long-haired, hippie-type kid. I had the police chief's kid I hung out with, and a couple other little buddies that we were, you know, regular good old guys, electrician's son and plumber's son. And, you know, we just had a good time. We started off just palling around. We were like 5th, 6th grade, and then we just hung out from then on. It was a good group of kids, and they all still here.
What was being in the military like for you, and has it affected you?
It was a good experience. I got to travel everywhere. I learned a lot. Learned how to take care of yourself. Learned to grow up quick. But they actually taught me what I do today. It's construction. That's what I went in for. I went in to be an engineer, and they taught me how to do all the equipment and how to, read survey and read gauges and all that. So that was a good experience. College, that's cheaper, and I get paid.
What do you do for a job now?
I work for the town of Nantucket DPW, construction, drains, sewers, tarring, all that good stuff.
Do you volunteer anywhere?
Yeah, I like to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. Do a lot of time there, football, refereeing, coaching, basketball, helping out whenever I can over there. And I do a lot of work at the Legion, like volunteer work for the Legion doing their stuff. But Thanksgiving, that's about it,
How is school different now than it was then here?
A lot more kids. You got a lot of people, a lot of different races here now, and which when I was in school was either black or white, and that was it. But we all still got along, so it must be a lot of fun to be hanging out with different people. New groups, no more cliques. There's a lot of cliques when I was in school, like different people just hanging together. So it'd be nice to go to somewhere where you can meet different people.
Is there something that you would like to tell me about you that I don't know already?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you that when I was in high school, I was in a high school band. It was called Daffer and the Divots, and we were like on a new wave punk rock cutting edge. I think we were a little bit before our time. One of my band members, I don't know if you know him, he's a big guy, and Kenny Howard. He's a drummer, plays studios. He still lives on island, but he was our main focus because he was the only one that really had the real talent. But we played at prom parties. We played for CPS dances, and we actually got paid. So that was a good fun time.
Well, that's it. Thank you for coming here today.
That's it. All right. Thanks a lot.
My name is Stella Glowacki, and today I'll be interviewing Judy Collatz.
My name is Alexa Durr, and I'll be behind the camera.
So, how long have you lived on Nantucket?
I was born in Nantucket. I didn't always live here. I lived off island. I lived in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and I lived in Seattle, Washington, and I lived in New York City. But Nantucket has always been home.
And what took you to all of those places? Why were you in all of those places?
Well, I went off to college, and my husband, who's also from Nantucket, he graduated with an accounting degree, and at that time there was one accountant on Nantucket. So we had to go somewhere where he could get a job, and that was Boston.
And in all the time that you were off island, had you always wanted to move back? Had it always been the plan?
Yes. Even the first car we bought a car that could be serviced when we came back to Nantucket. Not if, but when we came back.
And what about Nantucket was special to you that made you want to come back so much?
It was home. My parents were here. My husband's parents were here. My grandparents, my grandmother was born here in 1865. And it was just home.
And what do you like most about the community here?
I like the closeness of the community, the people. They all care about each other, and you get a feeling that you would be taken care of no matter what with friends.
Is there anything you would change about the community if you could?
Maybe I would try to stop some of the growth that seems to be coming here. But other than that, I think the beauty of the island overcomes that problem. I really enjoy the winter when I can get a parking place on Main Street and get a parking place at Stop and Shop. But I understand that it's the summer revenue that helps the island be and have the services that it does. So I know we need both.
What do you do as a member of the community? What are your,
I do Meals on Wheels, and I've done that for more than 15 years, and a lot of them I know growing up here in Nantucket. I also am a docent at the Congregational Church Tower, up in the top of the tower in the summer, and I really enjoy talking to really different people. And I'm a docent at the Lightship Basket Museum, too. I started doing it with my daughter. When my mother-in-law started getting Meals on Wheels, I decided we should help. So we started doing it, and I do it with a friend now. The two of us do it. We have lots of fun, and we talk to everybody, and they seem to enjoy having us there.
Is there anything that you've learned from doing that volunteering?
There's probably lots of things I've learned, but I think the main thing is that you get out of it more than you put into it.
And is there anything important about yourself that you'd want to share?
I don't think there's anything important about me. I just want to be a good person and a good friend to people.
And do you like to leave the island? Do you travel a lot?
Yes, I love to travel. And I've traveled to all over this country and to Europe. And my husband laughs at me, but anytime anybody says, "Do you want to go?" I say yes.
And do you think it's important for people to experience other countries?
Oh, yes. I think that the children who travel, get more out of it than they do out of a classroom sometimes. And my grandchildren who went through Nantucket High School traveled with the chorus and everything here, and that was a wonderful experience.
Do you think that it's important that people think about the history of Nantucket and the places they go?
Yes, I think that it's very important that they know the history of Nantucket and how it was developed and things that went on here when the island was very young and growing up, and how it was settled for religious reasons and such. And I think that's very important for people to know about.
Thank you for answering questions. It's been...
You're very welcome. I've enjoyed doing this.
My name is Shaquan Graham, and I will be interviewing Mrs. Ellie McVicker.
My name is Mary Alice, and I will also be interviewing Miss Vicker.
Where were you born?
I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Why did you decide to move here?
I came to work just for the summer. The hospital has a busy place in the summertime, and they always hire extra nurses, so that's how I happened to come. Got very hot in the city, so seemed like a good plan. I was working in Boston as a nurse, and I came to Nantucket to work for the summer. And that was 53 or 54 years ago, and I never left.
What inspired you or made you want to be a nurse?
What made me want to be a nurse?
Or inspired you?
What inspired me? Well, I always like to relate with people, and I like to care for people. And that seemed the perfect vocation for me. So that's why I became a nurse. I think helping people of all kinds, people with many different types of illnesses.
Where did you work when you were on Nantucket?
Well, I did work in Boston. I worked at Tufts New England Medical Center, and then I came here and worked at the hospital for a couple of years. Then I got married and had my children, And I didn't work when my kids were very little. But then I started doing a little private duty. And then after that, I worked as town nurse. We had a town nurse. In those days, we were town employees. And I did that on a part-time basis for a while. And then I actually worked in court as a deputy sheriff a long time ago. They used to have one nurse for Superior Court, so I did that for a while. And then my most recent job, I was the director of nursing at our island home. And I was there a little over 20 years. But now I'm retired. And I travel a bit and I play a lot. And I love the beach. I spend a lot of time on the beach in the summer.
Who influenced you the most in life?
Probably my parents, especially my dad.
Why is that?
Why is that? Well, he was always there. He always encouraged me to take part in different things and to do well in school and to be part of the community. What lesson did he teach me? Well, to be kind to other people and to try to do things for other people, not just for myself. And if you help people, you find out that you feel really good about it.
If you could hold on to one memory from your life forever, what would it be?
Probably the memory of my husband.
Why is that?
Well, he passed away a few years ago, and I have lots of wonderful memories of him and his life with all of us.
What's something very important to you?
My family is probably the most important thing in my life.
What are you proudest of?
I'm proudest of my kids and their accomplishments. They've grown up to be fine young people, and that's probably what I'm proudest of.
What jobs do your children have?
What jobs do my children have? Well, my oldest daughter lives off island, and she's a teacher right at the moment. She's a special needs tutor is what she does. She's really a biologist, and she used to do a lot of substituting, teaching. She also did a lot of research. My middle daughter, who's a little bit younger than her, is a surgeon, and she grew up in Nantucket too and went to medical school, and she does surgery. And my youngest is my son, who lives here on Nantucket, and he's a lieutenant in the police department.
What's special about raising a family on Nantucket?
Well, it's a very close community. It's a very caring community, and I think people really look out for each other. And there are a lot of opportunities here if you take advantage of them. It's important that you get off island once in a while and that you have your parents to support you.
How has your life been different than what you'd imagine?
Well, I never dreamed I'd live on an island. That's the first thing. I just came for the summer, and I grew up in a city. I worked in Boston for a while, and I certainly didn't plan to live on an island, but it's probably the best thing I ever did.
Do you have any volunteer work?
Oh, over the years, I've done a lot of volunteer work. I was a Girl Scout leader. I was a cub den mother. I've volunteered at my church quite frequently and a couple other organizations. I've been on a couple boards at the homestead and for hospice. I've done a lot of volunteer work in the community and a lot of things at school when my kids were younger. That's always fun. It's always rewarding.
Thank you very much for coming today.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Hi, my name is Caden McGeckran, and I am interviewing Chewy Partida.
My name's Aiden Ranney, and I'll be behind the camera.
What brought you to Nantucket?
Just like most immigrants, work, bettering oneself. And my older brother, he got a job. He said, you graduated high school, you need to get a good steady job. You're coming with me.
Yeah. So, were you born in Nantucket?
No, I am not. As you can tell, I have an accent. I am, I guess I'm just an immigrant. I am originally from Mexico. I immigrated to the United States, specifically to the state of Washington in 1991. When I started high school, I was 16. A little old for a ninth grader, but because I was a first-time non-English speaker, I was placed in ninth grade.
So, what do you like about our community here? Like,
I like that it's international.
yeah.
I have so many friends. Every time I meet somebody, and I know that they have an accent like I do or a little different, I always ask, "Where are you from?" And more often than not, I'm very surprised that I meet somebody from another country that I know is on the map, but I had never met before. I've met people from Morocco, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Portugal. It's just about, if I was to do a check for every country, I think I would say I'm a third of the way to meeting somebody from every single country.
Yeah, it's
I
very
love
nice.
that. Yes.
What do you like to do here? Like, what's your favorite thing?
At the moment, I can't wait until the weekends because during the day we work so much that there's no free time. But on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, I get to go to the Boys and Girls Club and play sports. I work part time with the Boys and Girls Club with teenagers. I wish I could have more time to work during the day with regular non-teenagers.
Yeah.
I like that that other kids, international kids, there's Nepalese, Salvadorians, Brazilians, kids that they need something to do, and they need somebody they can relate to. And when I show up at the club, somebody always comes up to me and says, "Hey, I am new here. I'd like to do something fun," and the club offers that. And it's not just for the international kids. I've been coaching in Nantucket since my son was a kindergartner. Now he's graduating, so that gives it about 13 years that I've been coaching on Nantucket soccer. I like that the community has trusted me with this activity. I love all sports. I've coached volleyball, basketball, but mainly soccer. And because people really Nantucket is very welcoming, and the parents are very attentive to offering an option to their kids.
What was your most important memory that you ever had, that you could share?
Well, coming to the United States is very important.
Yeah.
But once we arrived in the States, my two older siblings and myself, we kind of stood out. And the teachers and principals back in the state of Washington, they saw something, and they wanted us to be more involved. My sister was the class president, and in the first year we arrived, when she would be okay being in the spotlight, and she was right away. She opened up a bunch of doors for us. We traveled to Washington, D.C. as representatives of the state of Washington on our second year. And so that was eye-opening. We got to see the Capitol, so many different places. We saw the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
It's amazing. This country's base is it's amazing. It's just, that was the beginning of one's understanding of what the democracy is about. I think it stands out to me. In the long run, I was able to gain citizenship. I can vote. I voted every time there's an election, either local or nationwide. And I think I provided my part to a democracy. I do try to put my best face forward so that people can see what immigrants provide. Imagine this country to me, it's built by immigrants, and I want to do my part. I don't want it to say that in this century, immigrants are different than the early immigrants, the founders, because there's the I don't know. I might not be seen as good as the first immigrants were, but I like to change that, the state of mind of some people. Because doors close on us, it's very easy to just give up, but that is not what somebody who already has something in mind is gonna do. I couldn't go to a college right away until I had my papers. But in the meantime, until I got my papers, I had to work. A person shouldn't give up. If there's work to be done, we need to go find it.
Yeah.
We need to help out in the community. Even though there's no time, there's no car, there is a way to do it. There is, back in Washington State, there is apple orchards that are filled with apples ready to be picked, but not enough workers. What happens if they don't get picked? The little bit of apples that get picked are gonna be twice as expensive. So that's our contribution.
So how's your family doing nowadays? Are they in any jobs or?
Yes, I have in Nantucket. I have a sister who is amazing. She gets so much done. She's a member of community, and she'll drop everything to go help on the next activity that the town is asking her to do. My brother is, he does well. He's a landscaper. He owns his own company. He owns his own house. I have my two sons. They are members of the school. They're members of the community. They hope to go to college. My wife works. She's an American citizen. She's amazing. And I think we're well on our way to be part of Nantucket. We hope to be here and help as much as possible.
So do you have any sad memories in your life?
Oh yes, leaving my hometown was hard. We were basically told suddenly that we were leaving for the United States. And from one day to the other, we packed everything of value we had into one truck. And 9 of us siblings in the back of the truck. My mother, my father, and my older sister in the front. And there was so much crying. Except me. I chose to grab a piece of ice and think and just chew on it so I wouldn't break down and cry. An immigrant has to leave basically everything behind. All the promises of growing up and being part of a town, it's basically erased, and you have to start again from nothing somewhere else. It's not an easy decision. So that was sad.
Do you have any happy moments?
Yes, when I got married, my wife took me to her family reunion where they showed me how their family first came to this country. They arrived at the Mayflower, and there's traces of their ancestors all over Plymouth. 5 different families from their first generation are settled in Plymouth. And they added me, once I got married to their family, they added me to their family tree. Now there's a small branch in their family, and my sons are there as well. We do not have that privilege back home because for whatever reason, those who came to our side of the world, they just simply seem to have denied us that ability to trace our ancestry. It's easier now with science. I could easily, pay $600 and find out where my relatives came from. I have vague idea that I'm French descendant, but I'm very proud to be a native of Mexico. Well, this has been very nice. Thank you for your kind questions, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your answers too.
Hello, my name is Aisha Williams, and I will be interviewing Mr. Harry Maharjan. Unfortunately, my partner Dylan Bell could not be here today. Tell me about Nepal.
Nepal is like a country where you meet lots of you'll see lots of culture thing, lots of colors, lots of people, lots of languages, and that's what's Nepal about.
What do you miss about Nepal?
Nepal, I miss places, I miss sun, like no snow. I'm from Kathmandu, so we never get that much snow or never get snow, and I miss about this time of year, being this home and sit on the sun and do stuff.
What was your childhood like?
It was all right. It was like I think my dad has a good job at that point, and we're not that bad situation, everything was fine. When my childhood was like just simple, be home with the brothers and go to school, do the thing, and that was all right. Just I see like now time been changed and everything's now. We didn't have smartphone as a kid, so we probably talk to friends more than now. Nowadays I see like even in a restaurant, like I see like there's 3 kids come in the restaurant and they're not talking anymore. Everybody's on the phone. We didn't have that kind of childhood. Like we go play and to run around and all that, and and that's what as a kid, my kid was like just being like just go to school right after school, just just to find friends and do activities with friends like play games or stuff like that.
How many siblings, or do you have siblings?
I have 2 big brothers and 1 sister.
Did you have any pets as a kid, or is there anything special to you as a kid?
I had a pet dog. I want to have dog all my life here too, but being not owning a house, it's hard on the island. Like, hey, if you're actually landlord, like there was not even a question like no dogs, So I used to have rabbits and a dog as my pets.
What lessons did they teach you growing up, or like what quotes did they always say to you?
The quotes I always, I always follow the things about like, hey, when you do something, just do it right, rather than since you're doing it already, just might as well do it right. And that influenced me, every time I have this job or, I could have just do the job or I could do it right. And I would just do it right just because since you're doing it already.
What was the toughest moment of your life?
Toughest moment, I can just mention one. There's a few, like even let's say like as far I remember, like just coming for first time in the United States, like saying bye for your mother and dad when they were like turning 60s and like, hey, bye, daddy, and I'm going to go to a different country for several years, and was there fine, but still like that's when you those things as like when you're 19 and stuff, like, hey, now you feel like your parents need you, like you can take care of parents, like no, you're leaving.
How did you come to Nantucket?
I came to Nantucket for a job on Stubbies, if you know Stubbies. And it was a few process, and it wasn't that bad because my brother was here initially. So he recommended one of his bosses, and I was just going to high school, just graduating high school at that point. I was 19, and I came here, and it was fun.
Talk about your restaurant, the Boathouse.
Boathouse. I think the Boathouse, we didn't open just like, hey, we want to open the restaurant. it was like a toy store, and it was a boat house, like boat building where you used to build the boats and stuff. And I had the chance to do anything in the restaurant. Like I can do Chinese, Indian, or so we went to do little research about Providence, Boston, what's people eating, what's people want, and we see the lacking people going to like any pizza or burger joints anymore. There's places like fresh vegetables, like Mexican places, and I think I looked at it for myself going to like Providence and Boston's, and you go and walk in the Mexican restaurant, like all vegetables cut up, you can see them right there, like nobody's making behind the back and stuff. So I think that kind of thing, I think the island was missing that point. Like we don't have anything like this what I have in the Boathouse, or the Boathouse is the only place like I feel like in Massachusetts there's no place like Boathouse. Like they make every food, being a fast food, make everything made from scratch. Like we make our own meats, seasoned, cut on little pieces, vegetable, and I think that's what make Boathouse special in Nantucket, and it's like undone. Plus, I think that's what people wanted to do, though.
What do you do as a member of the Nantucket community, like playing or like volunteering, for instance?
I mean, we give lots of gift certificate towards the voluntary agency, or let's say like the Boys and Girls Club have something, or they will bring up one level, hey, you want to help? And I think we're helping. I think we never turned down any of the charities so far, and that's what we're doing so far for my effort, and plus the Boathouse itself. Like for Nantucket, I would like I said then before, like we being in a town like something Nantucket doesn't have to offer so far, and let's that much for now, and I'm looking forward to do some more for sure.
What do you like most about our community?
Nantucket, I like the community itself. I think Nantucket has like Nantucket is different than other places I've been to the United States for sure. It's like people take care of communities, and there's I see lots of helping hands here. Like if you want to try to do something like in Nantucket, everybody's trying to help you. It's like no we're trying to throw in the bus or anything. And that's what I think in Nantucket, it's like so much helping hands, and people understand what's going on, and even every exit of things you do at the work, or it helps the community. So you talk about like any department, health department, or you go to town SDCs, and Nantucket town itself, and I think it's everybody's always willing to help, and that makes this place special.
What could you change if you could change anything in the community?
I think I talked this about like few times more about I think if I want change, I think we can make the island so perfect. If I go downtown, like I see like you get off the boat and things are hanging and stuff, and when you hear about the other places, like they go to Florida, they probably power wash their dick every day, you know what I mean, and stuff, and I think Nantucket should be like, I think it's a small island, and I think we can make this perfect, and that's kind of things missing, I think things need to be clean and things need to be perfect, and that's kind of, I think it's getting there, but I think it should be, I want to be, I think if I could, I want this to be perfect, and which is not that hard. I feel like it could be hard, but I think being a small place, we can make that perfect, and I think that thing's missing.
What is something important to you that you want to tell me about yourself?
There's so many things important, for me, as of right now, I think I was just blessed with my son. I think he's important more than anything, because he's, he was just born and he can talk, he can request me anything. So now, try to imagine what he's saying or what he's thinking. So that's my priority right now.
What are your plans for the future?
Future, I think pretty simple. I think I've spent my half of life here and half of Nepal. So I would more think about every day. I'll probably go home, one of these years, because I think over here everything's all set, and if I leave the Boathouse, there'll be second person to do it nice well and all that, and I feel like this place is set, and so many things missing at home. Back home, if I go home, I can do the same thing and show people how things works and how things work in developed countries, how the things get done, and I go with the education and I can deliver to my people, and so that I can help that way my community. Plus, I think I'm just gonna, I have a few years I have, and I'm gonna enjoy this and work hard and go back home. And some reason I want my kids to raise in Nepal, so that they will learn the culture I have. I see myself 5 years. I'll be more situated. The things I want to do, I think I'll closer to my goal, and in 5 years or so.
Well, thank you for coming today. Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Melissa Fernandez, and I will be interviewing Mrs. Carrie Ryden.
And my name is Talia Moore, and I will be working behind the camera.
So, were you born on Nantucket?
I was, yep. Both my parents were as well, and one of my children.
Did you, ever move?
Well, I went off island for college, and then when I graduated, I moved to New York City for a couple years where I worked in publishing and in nonprofits. And then I moved to Connecticut. I kind of inched my way back here as I was starting a family. And once I had one son, we had to move back and get some help.
So what is special about raising a family on Nantucket?
For me, well, I'm very, very fortunate. I have a large family. So for me, it's all about family. Nantucket's a perfect place, magical place. But for me, I'm here because my family's here, and I'd go wherever they were. So I was fortunate growing up to be able to walk down the street to my grandparents' house. And it was only 5 minutes to the other one. So I never had to split up holidays or anything. We never had to travel on holidays. And it's the same for my kids. My husband's from Texas, so of course we have to travel to see his family. But we live basically in my parents' backyard. My sister lives 2 doors down, so we are very fortunate. My kids get to run back and forth to their grandparents whenever they want. And I have 2 little nephews who we can play with whenever we want. So we're very, very fortunate.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys. They're 10 and 12.
Okay. What's your job?
I am the executive director of Palliative and Supportive Care of Nantucket. It's a really long name. We shorten it to PASCON to talk about it. And I help raise money so we can offer free services to people who are dying, not dying. They're living with serious illnesses. They're caring for people with serious illnesses or grieving, and it's pretty important work that they do. And I just help raise the money, but I'm very honored to be able to help with it.
So, who was the most important person in your life?
Eeks. That's a tough one. I'd probably say my children now. They've helped me realize a lot more about myself, strengths and weaknesses, probably mostly weaknesses. And it's interesting to see myself in my kids and scary as well, and trying to step back and let them be their own people and not, even though I know what's coming for them or I feel like I do, trying not to get in the way of that and just let them be who they're going to be. I think they're definitely the most influential people ever.
So, did you contribute to the society as a kid?
I probably did. I would say so. I was very involved. I don't know about the whole community, but definitely the school community. I was the president, and I was in all these clubs and drama, and I was very involved, and that's something I think that's unique about Nantucket. I don't know if it's still that way, but when I was in school, you could do everything. There was enough time, and there was the opportunity to try everything. So, I was always very busy, and I enjoyed all that after-school stuff a lot. I started the school newspaper, which gave me a lot of joy, a lot of direction. It kind of told me about myself and what I really liked doing. I didn't go anywhere with it, but I still, to this day, love that sort of work. I would say starting the paper was a major event for me because it really, I really got into it. I loved it, and I got a lot of confidence. I was very shy, but I was confident in school and in school related things. I was super shy. I would never do something like this when I was in school unless I was dragged to, and I'd probably throw up if I had to do it. But yeah, I could do that sort of thing for school, and I got a lot more confidence from the paper. I worked with this wonderful woman named Pam Mickelson, who is the mother of a friend of mine, but she always treated me like an equal. And so she and I started the paper together, but she was always kind of in the background. I never really realized how much she did because she made me feel like it was all mine. And I got to, manage a team of students and work with the teachers. And I really felt like I gained a lot of respect, and I really gained a lot of confidence from that.
How was it going from being in Nantucket High School to going to Harvard?
That was very challenging. I always did very, very well at school here. And I didn't like school, but I liked doing well, and I liked pleasing people. And, the teachers always liked me, and I always did really well. And I never had to work, really. So I did not know the first thing about studying. I had never really studied. I feel like I never had really worked. And then I got there, and God, it was like the classes were huge, and nobody paid attention to you, and it felt like nobody cared. Like we lived in an apartment from day one, like alone, like in the city. We weren't alone. We were 4 to a room, but it was just like, oh my God, I'm all of a sudden alone in a city, and I have to do all this stuff. And I got, B's and a C. And for me, that was a big blow. I had never done poorly, and it was awful. I was really, really shocked and upset a lot of my freshman year. But on the other hand, socially, it was exciting. I'd been shy, and it sounds mean and stereotypical, but it's kind of true that the group of people that I was at school with, were kind of on the dorky side. There were a lot of people who were ridiculously smart, and I felt like I didn't belong to be there. And there were these people who were just on a different level than I was, and I was like the normal, nice one. And so I was able to be friends with more people, and I kind of grew socially, but academically and work-wise and stuff, I retreated a bit. I didn't really put myself out there in terms of joining anything. I ended up doing fine. The B's and C's in retrospect were not that big a deal, and everything was fine. But I felt lost. I wimped out, and I left that area, and I did not pursue the sciences or anything, which I don't really regret now, but it was hard.
You said you didn't like school, but which subject was like your favorite?
When I was younger, like elementary school, I think it was probably writing. I used to do some classes in the summer on my own. It ended up just being me and this one woman who's an author, and I loved it, and I continued that at school. But that went away. I felt kind of, maybe even by 4th or 5th grade, like I felt kind of stifled, like they start to tell you exactly what you have to write. And from that point on, I was like, forget this. I still enjoyed writing essays and things, but the love of it was gone. And then I think it got replaced by math. There was this program called the Math League, which was run by this woman named Jackie Jetty, who was a terrific teacher who worked with kids that needed a little more challenge. And they were these tricky math questions, and it was a contest, and every week, I don't know, every month, whatever, you had to do a bunch and see how many you could get, and I loved that sort of thing.
What was the happiest moment of your life?
Yeah, it was falling in love with my husband. I don't know a specific moment, and I think that's kind of cheesy, but it was. Those were the happiest days of my life. And it was combined with, I think, I was in New York at the time. So I guess that was another thing. Being in New York, like on my own, even before I met him, was another extremely happy time. I first went to New York the summer after my junior year of college to do an internship. And again, I was such a homebody and so shy, and nobody thought I would like it there, but I loved it. And I felt, like the Mary Tyler Moore stupid thing with throwing the hat up. Like, I felt so empowered and strong, and I was really, really happy and confident there. I was like a different person. And then, 2 years later, a year later, to meet my husband and to share that with him, and to be in that space myself, to be so confident and happy, those were just awesome times.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister.
Okay. How did she influence you, if she did?
She did. I was, I'm the younger sister. I was certainly very jealous, and felt like I was in her shadow. And, here, it being so small, people would confuse us, and they would also expect the same from me that they got from her. She was also a very good student. I think I shied away from a number of things because she was good at them. She was really good at dancing, and tennis, for instance, and I tried ballet, and after a day or two, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm never going to be as good as her, it's too bad that I was that way, and probably still am a perfectionist. And, if I wasn't going to be as good as she was, I was out of there. Tennis was the same way, although I stuck with it, but was never as good. But fortunately, I think we had enough different interests, and I developed my own interests and pursued those things pretty early, so that we didn't compete, and we didn't have that much to do with each other, like in middle school and high school. But I'm sure, but she was definitely an influence, and we're very close still today. Like I said, she lives a couple doors down, and we see each other all the time.
Well, thank you, Carrie,
of course,
for participating.
Thank you for asking me. Good job.
Thank you.
My name is Rex Dixon, and I will be doing the interview.
I'm Katie Hall, and I will be behind the camera.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I do commercial shell fishing. I bay scallop in the winter. That goes from November to the 1st of April. And in the summer months, I dig hardshell clams, little necks, and sell them to the fish markets on the island. So I'm out in my boat year-round.
Okay, how much money does that get you?
How much money does it get me? Well, it depends on the season, and it depends on the price of the product. The bay scallop is usually the best because it's a longer season, and the prices do fluctuate from year to year, plus the harvest. And in the summertime, the little necks are probably a set price, and I can do that 3 or 4 days a week, and I sell them to the fish markets.
What nationality are you?
Well, I'm half Norwegian and part Irish. And my father came from Norway, and my my grandmother came from Ireland.
What is the most special part of Nantucket to you?
Oh, there's a lot of parts of Nantucket that I really like. I like being on the island, and I like being small, where I can get to one place to another without a lot of traffic. I like the availability of the water on both ends of the island, Nantucket and the main harbor, which is important to me because that's how I make my living.
How would your best friend describe you?
My best friend described me? Oh boy. Oh gee, I don't know. I would like have him to describe me. I don't know. I guess kind of straightforward, down to the point, and no foolishness.
If you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 things would you want with you and why?
Well, I got to have food to survive. I like to have shelter. And the third thing, I'd like to have my boat so I could leave.
What do you usually worry about and why?
Worry about? Oh, there's a lot of things to worry about. But, I think when you get along in years like myself, you worry more about your health. That's the main thing. Your health and the well-being of your family is a concern. It's not a major worry. It's a concern, major concern.
If you were to take all the choices you made, what animal do you think you're most like and why?
Maybe like a Labrador retriever. Like I'm cuddly and I'm always wagging my tail.
So, you've been on Nantucket for a long time, right?
Yeah, all my life so far.
You said you were a fisherman? What's your thought on ocean pollution? Like, do you think that it should really, really stop?
Well, I think in the last 20 years with oil pollution, well, ocean pollution, I should say, people are much more aware of it today than they were in the past. And I think we're starting to come out of the worst part of pollution, ocean pollution. There's still a lot to be done, but as more and more people are aware of it, more will be done to clean up and to keep the oceans pristine, like our waters around Nantucket.
So when did you first realize that you love the ocean?
Oh, I think just when I was a little boy, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's something that gets in your blood from your parents, my father's side, my grandfather's side. It's just something that you like. And if you like what you're doing, that's so important. And I like what I do. I don't call it work. I just enjoy what I do.
Did you do any military service as a kid?
I spent 4 years in the Coast Guard. As soon as I graduated from high school, I enlisted into the Coast Guard and spent 4 years. And it was quite an experience. I became I ran a rescue boat for 2 years down into the Key West during the Cuban refugee crisis, and we saved hundreds and hundreds of people during that time.
At what age did you go into the military?
Right after graduation. Yeah, I was 19. And in those days, it was what they call the 4-year hitch. You had to sign up for 4 years. And I still think it's 4 years now that you have to give your time. You go to boot camp first. That was 16 weeks. And then you went in onto a ship or a shore station or whatever.
What do you think is the biggest problem in today's world?
Biggest problem is, oh, geez. Wow. Well, I guess it's always been a problem in the world. It's just wars and people not being able to get along with each other. You know, most of the wars comes down to religion. And if people can just accept the other person's religion and let well enough alone, let be what be, and I think the world would be a lot better off.
What religion are you?
I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic, the Christian religion. And now here on Nantucket, we have several different religions, and we all seem to get along fine, you know, which unfortunately the world doesn't.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're entirely welcome, young man. You're entirely welcome.
My name is Kenya Guzman, and I will be interviewing Andy Marks.
My name's Andrina Marzullo, and I'll be behind the camera.
So tell me, what gave you the reason to come to Nantucket?
I came to Nantucket as a bride.
Bride for?
Well, most Nantucket men, this was quite a while ago, they grew up with everybody that lived here. There wasn't as many new people as there are now. And my husband always knew he'd never marry anybody from here. So I came to be the maid of honor in my roommate from prep school's wedding, and my husband was the best man.
What a coincidence.
Wasn't a coincidence, it was cornball, and it's the only corny thing I've ever done.
So I heard you have a special way with dogs.
I love dogs. I love dogs, and I like to make dogs happy. And to make dogs happy, most of the time you just have to teach people how to think like a dog, because people don't think like dogs, they think like people. And my job is to get them to understand what the dog wants.
So what advice would you give the owners?
Most of the time I give the advice that the dog is a dog. It's not your baby and it's not your boyfriend, and to treat the dog like a dog.
Describe raising a family on Nantucket.
It was wonderful to raise a family on Nantucket. My children had a wonderful life, and I have had a wonderful life here. I've been very happy for almost 50 years.
Were your kids born in Nantucket?
Yes, they were. Right at Nantucket Cottage Hospital.
Did they like Nantucket?
They did like Nantucket, and they loved to grow up here. My daughter left for college and knew she wouldn't come back. She'd live on the mainland, but my son lives here.
So your son loved Nantucket more than your daughter?
I think they both love Nantucket, but when you grow up, and you'll find this out, you want different things, and the mainland has different things to offer. But Nantucket is special, and it's been special to me. I never wanted to leave here.
So what jobs have you done over like the years?
I've done things that were fun for me to do. I was very lucky in that respect, that if I loved to do something, I was able to do it. And if I didn't like it, then I didn't do it anymore. But I've loved to do it. One of my favorite jobs was working at the Adult Day Center with elderly people. I loved it.
Did you really?
Yeah. I love children, dogs, and old people.
So what would you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for just being a nice person.
Yeah, you seem very happy.
I am a happy person. But you know what, Kendra? I choose to be happy.
If you could start a career over again, what would it be?
I wouldn't start a career over again. I never wanted a career. I just wanted to sample different things and just be happy and live my life.
So what was the toughest moment of your life?
The toughest moment of my life was when my son had an accident in 1986. He was almost killed when he was hit by a car, and that was very hard. But everything turned out all right, and now he works and holds down a job, but it was very hard at the time.
Did he have his accident on Nantucket?
Yes, he did.
So where do you see yourself in 2025?
2025. I guess I see myself right where I am now, just doing things that I like to do. I take beautiful walks with my dogs and everybody else's dogs, and I sew in my sewing room, and I just have a very happy life. I've been very fortunate.
So still living on Nantucket?
Yes.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 2 great big giant dogs, but I walk a lot of other dogs.
You do?
Yes, I do.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Right now I have Rottweilers, but my favorite breed of dog is the Doberman Pinscher.
So, what was your past like, and what did you love?
My past, I grew up on an island off the coast in between Maine and New Hampshire that is much smaller than Nantucket. So it wasn't hard for me to come here. My island had 300 people on it. So when I came here, it was big. But the islands off the coast of Maine have great big, huge trees and cold water. It was different coming here. The first thing I asked my husband was, where are your trees? I didn't understand the whole moors concept. Then when I went away to school outside of Boston, that was hard for me because that was a culture shock. Coming here to Nantucket was very easy because island living is pretty much island living anywhere.
When you first came to Nantucket, did you know you wanted to live here?
Yes, I felt very at home here. It was lovely. And I immediately started walking everywhere. I would just pick a direction and walk. And I've walked all over this island. I think that's what I really enjoy the most.
So have you always had dogs with you?
Yes. Yes, I've always had a dog. In Cinnamon Diamond Engagement Ring, I got a Great Dane puppy.
What do other people describe you as?
That's a tough one. People describe me, I guess as an outdoorsy person, an outgoing person, and I hope a happy person.
Growing up, what was the biggest influence that you had, and what lessons did they teach you?
The biggest influence in my life growing up is interesting because it's somebody who was not there. My mother died when I was a very little girl. So in order to experience motherhood, I had to watch other mothers and their children. And I can remember at a very young age thinking, oh, I'll never do that to my kids, or, oh, I want to do that with my kids. So when I grew up, I always watched women and paid attention to the things that they did, because I had no reference frame at home. So when I had children, I did do those things that I wanted to do, and I did not do the things that I thought as a child were wrong. And I think that's a really interesting concept, that the only way that I had to have a mother was to be a mother. So I turned it around.
So did you have siblings?
Yes, I had 2 brothers. I had an older brother and a younger brother, and my father raised us. So that's why I'm Andy. I was always treated like one of the guys. And I think the thing that saved me, besides the dogs, was having horses, and I could get out. And I think that helped me a lot, too, because I had to take care of other animals. I had to take care of animals. And so I've always done that.
Was it hard for you and your siblings to not have a mother to look up to?
Of course it was. But it taught me how to work together with other people. If my brothers and I didn't all work together, I don't think we would have had the life that we did. So, when you see siblings fight, we really couldn't do that too much because we had to get along, and we all had to do like the work of a woman that would be in the house. We did the dishes and laundry and things like that.
So do you think that grew you and your siblings' relationship to stronger?
Yes, of course it did. Yeah. Because when things are easy, I think you don't take as much time and care of each other. But when things are difficult, you really have to take care of each other.
If you could keep a memory forever, what would it be and why?
No, that's another tough one. One moment forever? I don't know if I can pick just one. It probably would be just sunrise walking with my dogs.
Do you wake up every morning to walk your dogs and look at the sunrise?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Even in February when the snow was blowing sideways in my ear. Yes. Who motivates me? I don't know. I think I motivate myself. I think there are people that are self-motivated, and I love life. I love to do things. I love my life here. It's a small life, but I really enjoy it.
It's a good island.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
You are so welcome.